last example here, and this is by far the most complicated lesson that we've looked at this year. So definitely make sure you're utilizing these videos and getting some practice in here. So here we are, example 3. We've got a little bit more of a crazy thing going on here because we have division. We've got a fraction bar going on. So whenever you've got any kind of operation like multiplying or dividing going on, the first thing you want to start with here is you want to simplify before you do any canceling. So just like we did in that example 2, when we have multiple things under that same radical, we're going to start by splitting up those roots or those radicals. Okay, so on the top, I've got the square root of 2, the square root of x squared, the square root of y to the third, and the square root of z, all over square root of 6 times the square root of y. Okay, so the square root of 2, the only factors of 2 are 2 and 1, and I mean, 1 is a perfect square, but the square root of 1 is just 1, and you'd be left with the same thing. So that square root of 2 is just going to stay the same. It already is in simplest radical form. There's nothing else I can do with that square root of 2 to simplify it. We know the square root of x squared comes out as just a plain old x. Now, my square root of y cubed, I can break that up into the square root of y squared times the square root of y. Remember that 2 and the 1 to get back to that 3. And then the square root of z, that's already simplified as much as possible because it doesn't have an exponent higher than 1, you know? And then let's look at the bottom. Square root of 6, my only factors of 6 are 6 and 1 and 2 and 3. Neither of those are perfect squares, so my square root of 6 can also just kind of chill. And then my square root of y, that can't be simplified either, so that's just staying as the square root of y. So really not much simplifying to do here. Excuse me. So now, I have the square root of 2 and the square root of 6. I could simplify those or do that division like we learned in that previous lesson about multiplying and dividing radicals. When I had the square root of 100 divided by the square root of 50, I was able to just do that division and turn that square root into that. So we can do that here. So we're going to look at the square root of 2 over 6, which we'll move into the next one. So then we have x on the top still. The square root of y squared comes out as y. The square root of y to the first stays in the radical, as does the square root of z, and my y stays in the radical also. All right, so 2 divided by 6 is 1/3. So I have the square root of 1 divided by the square root of 3. X times y is just xy. And I have the square root of y and the square root of z. And I still have the square root of y underneath. So this is where I can do a little bit more simplifying here to finish this off. The square root of y divided by the square root of y is going to cancel out to 1. The square root of 1 is just plain old 1, so I'm going to just get rid of that. So I'm left with xy on the top and the square root of 3 on the bottom. And boom. Technically, that's not written. We would have to rationalize that, but I won't put us through that right now. So that would be good enough for now.